Hello and welcome once again to Boom 11 Live, and our coverage of FIFA World Cup at Qatar continues, and we come to you right after a victory where Croatia has dominated Canada, and a 3-1 scoreline towards the end. Could have been a 4-1 as well. Very close encounter till when the Croatian midfield just decided to ascend into god level dominance, and from there on, Canadian inexperience started to show on the pitch, and the Croatian experience started to shine. And it was too much towards the end for Canada to really manage. Or rather, it's a 4-1 defeat, by the way. Should have been 5-1, not 4-1 then. But also, let's talk about Morocco. We will be speaking about how Morocco has defeated Belgium 2-0. And what a game it has been. We saw Thibaut Courtois, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, make some silly errors as well to end up at that 2-0 loss against Morocco. And then Costa Rica now making it three teams with 3 points in that group, and really setting up the Spain versus Germany clash, which is also what we will be covering right before, just a few minutes to go for that match to begin as well. I have with me Abel. Abel, let's start with the Croatia and Canada match. It was a good start for Canada, yes, but then Croatia was too good towards the end, wasn't it?
I mean, I totally expected Canada to get through. That was a bad prediction from my end to start off with. But then Croatia proving once again that midfield trio of Brozovic, Kovacic, and Modric are still the best out there in the park. They can dominate you. They can make you look like bunch of school kids in front of them. And we keep saying they just get better with they just get it with get better with time, and they've been doing it for the last 5 to 6 years in the international scene. And last World Cup was another testament of how good they can be. And in today's game, once again, they did turn up pretty well. Um, for Canada, they did get their opening goal. Alfonso Davis did provide them with the opening goal. That would have given them a lot of confidence, but that was not good enough ultimately. If you look at the entire scene of things, because from there on, it was a complete midfield masterclass from that midfield trio of Croatia. Remember, in this World Cup, there's no Rakitic, but then Kovacic has really fit into Rakitic's role of last World Cup with so much of ease. And another player from the last generation is Perisic. I felt that this lad is one of the most underrated wingers out there. And once again, he's proving why. His presence in the field is worth its weight in gold dust. And I thought that was one of the best performances I've seen of Croatia in a long while, and they've really announced themselves in this World Cup, which means other teams needs to be aware of what they can possibly bring into the table. They were missing out on a striker because in the last World Cup you had a Mandzukic who was a serious potent force up front. Then you had Rebic, but in this World Cup they brought in someone like Kramaric, and Kramaric did step in today, so that's a positive news for the Croatian setup.
Yeah, absolutely, Abel. As you've mentioned, it was a thorough performance from them. Let's start with some of the stats that we have right here. Let's start with the first. One of the names you mentioned was Ivan Perisic. A player is probably past his prime. He is towards the twilight of his career. But what a performance from him! And it doesn't look like he's aged any bit at all. At least World Cup football, he still seems to know what to do, and he does it really well. Let's start with the heat map of Ivan Perisic throughout this tournament. Throughout this match, and talk me through why, and how much this heat map translates or showcases the kind of performance he's had today.
I mean, to be very honest, Jaren, with Ivan Perisic, what you get is that he's a strong man out there in the wing, and he can cut in. He can give you the width time and time again. He's a potent force. He makes those runs. He presses at the defenders. He might not be the most flamboyant wingers of the modern generation. He's pretty much an old school winger when it comes to him giving the width, not particularly cutting in and being a potent goal threat. But that's what you get from Ivan Perisic. And that's what this team actually demands from Ivan Perisic as well. Look at that heat map. He has been on the left hand side. He has provided them with the width. He has given those opportunities, created those chances, especially with him pinning the balls in time and time again. I thought he had a fantastic game today in terms of his presence on the field, in terms of the way in which he was able to control from the left hand side, him linking up with Kovacic when Kovacic was dropping in between the left half spaces as well. So, all in all, a very good game for this lad. Often we have seen that this guy goes under the under par because of other top players in this side, and even world football he goes under par because he is not someone who will give you those crazy number of stats when it comes to goals and assists, but his impact needs to be measured. And today's game, I thought he had 77 percentage of accurate passes. He had great dribble attempts. He put in a couple of crosses out there. He had a couple of assists today. Let's not forget that two assists in the game. That is something which you need to remember in today's game. That's been the key talking point. And he did put in a performance which is very close to man of the match.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at it half as well, he usually, I mean, he does play as a left wing back for Tottenham, able, but here he's playing a different role, isn't it? And how is he really taken to this role when it comes to that switch from club to when it switch from club to nation?
Yeah, Jaren, to be very honest, if I have to tell about how Ivan Perisic is as a player, you have to give credit to the player he is. He started off as a winger, and he has really fit into the role of wing back for the Spurs side because that's the ability which this lad has got. He can play as a winger, he can play as a wing back, he can give you that extra bit of width on the left hand side. He can do a lot of role for your team. He's a versatile player when it comes to his work rate, when it comes to whatever he can provide on the pitch. He's a coach's dream, especially a winger
Yeah.
who can put in a defensive work rate. That is a coach's dream in the modern football. Because what is this modern football has really demanded is that you need to have players who will give you the defensive work rate as much as they can push forward. And Ivan Perisic gives that with perfection, and he's doing a good job. Now, if you look at that heat map once again, if I'll pull that up on the screen, you can understand that how much of defensive work rate he had to put as well. He has gone back into Croatian half. He has really put in some tackles out there. He has been impactful there. His reception points in that area has been incredible. He has won interceptions there. Then when it comes to his ball progression up front, even in the attacking final third, he's been a dominant presence. So that's what you get with Ivan Perisic, and that's something which is phenomenal to have, and that's a coach's dream, as I'll mention again with Ivan Perisic. But talking about Ivan Perisic, alongside Ivan Perisic, I thought another player was extremely impressive was Matthew Kovacic, because Matthew Kovacic was feeding balls to Ivan Perisic, and from there an attacking outlet was created into the box. So that's how the play was completely formed. It was Modric to Kovacic, Kovacic to Perisic, Perisic inside the box into Kramaric. So it was an interesting bit of play, and I thought that was well orchestrated by the midfield trio of Brozovic, Kovacic, and Luka Modric. And this is a new Trimurti of Croatian football, because I used to call Trimurti of Real Madrid with Casemiro, Modric, and Toni Kroos. And this Trimurti is pretty decent. I mean, I love that team, man. I love the way how they form as midfield. If you want to see an example of how midfield can win you matches, Croatian team is a prime example. And let's not forget, right? Even the defensive players, likes of Guardiol, likes of Lorraine, and these lads did have a very decent game as well. And Kramaric coming into the party really now looks this midfield extremely potent, extremely threatening.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are not from India, to give you context, Trimurti is what we call the Trinity in Hindi, but I think it is Hindi.
Yeah,
But
it is.
let's
It is.
talk about
I think so.
Mateo. I mean, let's talk about Mateo Kovacic, right? He plays for Chelsea, plays at a midfield role, and as you mentioned, he was someone who was box to box today. As you can see in this heat map right here, you see that he's had his presence on both sides of the box equally, and he was able to create. I mean, he was able to make those runs where the ball progression was contributed when he came to Croatia from the Croatian final third to the final third of in Canada, and that's where you have to give credit to this lad because he is putting in that work rate, isn't it? And that's the kind of work rate that helps this team.
Absolutely. I mean, there is no doubt about his work rate. There's no doubt about the way in which he's transformed as a player as well. But if I have to say, about work rate in specific, the modern football demands work rates. Modern football demands midfielders to really work their backs off, and that's one of the reasons why you see coaches prefer midfielders, coaches prefer wingers who can give you the work rate, because it's not just about standing inside the box and pinning the ball in the final third. You'll have to come back to defend. You'll have to win the balls in your own half, then progress the ball forward. So you will have to keep running throughout the entire 90 minutes. There's no time for you to rest. For example, in the game against Saudi Arabia, Messi, for example, did look like he was walking through the pitch, and that just looks so odd in modern football. In modern football, you can't afford to just walk in the pitch, which you could have done maybe in 2013, 2014. You have to keep running. You have to be in your position, including your striker. All 10 players who are outfield players will have to give you the work. And for defenders, especially, it's no more them short stopping. They'll have to progress the game. They'll need the ball playing ability, because that's where the modern football is heading into. And hence, I believe work rate is such a impactful thing for all the football players, and especially for this Croatian midfield and their wingers. They've been quite used to doing it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. As you mentioned, we did speak about, and let's talk about another player, and let's talk about his heat map, and that is Andre. I mean, Kramaric. I mean, how do you pronounce it? Wait, Emil, if
Kramaric.
you could help me out. Yeah, I'm not going to try there. But let's talk about his heat map. And you mentioned, that he had to take over the role from Manduski. I am struggling. I'm genuinely struggling. But
Mansukis,
he did take Manzu. Oh man, not a good day for me. I will come
Mansukis.
back stronger, guys. I will come back stronger for the third game. But let's talk about this role that he had to take. Right, he's taken over this role now, and he is looking like a player who could, really fit into this role. Someone who's trying to make it his own now, create his own legacy in this Croatian team. Because we did speak about how this Croatian team needs new players that can you can frame or run the transition around. And how much improvement has this performance, how much credit can you give when it comes to the improvement to this lad?
Oh, but it's been terrific. Especially this is one of the best performances he's put in a Croatian shirt. Look at his stats, right? He's had a wonderful game as a player. Just talking about his statistical play, scored 2 goals. Extremely impactful. XG of 1.06. Had what 3 shots in that, which he converted 2 shots. Had close to 42 touches, and his heat map also. It's not been central. He's drifted wide, which has also helped someone like a Perisic to get in between, which has made someone like a Modric to play in between. He's not really played just centrally. If you look at him compared to any other strikers, you would see his heat map speaks another story, and that's a clear stat. He has dropped down, he has given you the work, defensive work rate, he has received the ball, then he has progressed forward. And with the midfield you have, you can be assured that the balls will be right at your feet. You'll be served on a platter, and all you have to do is a finishing ability. You have to do is finish, and once you do that, you can look like a very good striker with this team. And Kramaric today had that kind of a day where he was getting into positions. All what he had to do was to finish, and he finished it with perfection. I think this performance is going to give Croatian team a lot of confidence. There was one issue which this Croatian team had before the start of this World Cup, which was basically to be not having the striker. But in this game, now to be having Kramaric to perform in the way he has done, that is going to give the entire Croatian team to believe that now can we go on to repeat what we did in 2018. Because in 2018 they had 2 strikers in Rebic and Mandzukic, who used to give you those runs, who used to put in those balls which were created by the midfield of Rakitic, Modric, and Brozovic, and that's exactly now the confidence point of someone like a Croatian team, and I'm pretty sure from going here on, be aware of the Croatian team. The last match they did receive a lot of criticism, but this match will give them a lot of confidence, but not to relax just yet. You're coming up against a formidable Moroccan unit. You're coming against a decent Belgian unit next time around. I know they've given up on themselves, but then you'd never take that team lightly. They can turn it up on the given day, though they've not been the most impressive in this World Cup. So if they have one more day like this on the field, I'm pretty sure they can qualify and top the group as well.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I mean, absolutely fair enough. As we did speak about all the three players and the heat maps, three players who really influence the game. Let's talk about let's before get to the next few stats. Let's talk about the question here by Noah Van Meekeren, whose name I got right. Uh, he has a question about the number 10 in modern football. And Abel, what do you reckon about the number 10 in modern football? Do you reckon his role has changed?
Yeah, because I'll take that question with Kovacic's heat map today, right? Yeah, I mean, I like to put that with Kovacic's heat map because it's something which we will talk about Kovacic and I can connect it. Now, with Kovacic in this team, this Croatian team plays a proper 4-3-3 formation. They have four in the back, then they have wing backs, and then they have a proper midfield of two number eights. Maybe coaches to play as a number 10, number 8 kind of a role. And Modric also does something very similar. There is no proper number 10 in this team. Now, what is a number 10? Number 10 is an attacking midfielder, a free roaming midfielder in your team who's given that space to roam, who can drift wide, who can go into the final third, pin the balls in, and look to be a very advanced, creative midfielder. That's what a number 10 is in football, and it always has been. Now, with modern game, I think I'll just pull up Noah's question so others also can see what the question is all about. In the modern game, it's something which I've just mentioned. I think it is related to what I already mentioned. The modern game demands your number tens to really, put in the defensive work rate as well. So there is no attacking midfielder concept where you have a sole attacking midfielder. There are teams who deploy it, but those attacking midfielders also will have to play a box to box role. They'll have to come recover the ball. They'll have to do the attacking progressions. That's one of the reasons why Ozil has not been the most impactful since 2018. Why James Rodriguez has depleted. Why Coutinho has depleted. So there is a certain reason behind all these players depleting considerably, and to an extent, even Griezmann has depleted because of the same reason. There are players. Messi with Messi, he's different. He can play in anywhere on the pitch. That's a different guy altogether. And Neymar is a different gravy altogether as well. But to be talking about specifically of number tens of modern generation, you don't find them because coaches prefer a box to box number eight, number six kind of a midfielder over a number 10 who is advanced, who stays close to the final third of the opposition half and tries to create from there on. Now it's a proper number eight who plays box to box, who gives you those runs. Now look at Kovacic today, right? The best player on the pitch today in terms of the midfield. Look at his heat map. Look at his heat map in terms of how many receptions he has had in the defensive half. How many receptions he has been, how many balls he has really received in terms of the final third, in terms of the Canadian half, how he has been able to control the game a lot more. I think Kovacic is a prime example of what the modern midfielder is all about. He was defensively very good. At the same time, when it comes to his attacking creativity, he was top notch as well. So this is what a modern midfielder is all about, and it is also testament to what coaches want. Coaches demand this kind of a midfielder because that's the only way in which you can control a game. Previously, you could say that there was a time in football where you didn't need so much of work rate because you didn't the system which was deployed was pretty simple. You could play as an advanced midfielder. The work rate was not really concerned about. Now you have to press. You have a lot more defensive work rate to do, and coaches need it because that's what involves all the players. That's the only way in which you can progress a game. That's the only way in which the game can be switched on throughout the course of 90 minutes. And I pretty much like it as well, to an extent, how the modern game has evolved, which doesn't make any player to play in specific positions. You'll have to be multi-dimensional in terms of the work rates you give, because that's the only way in which you can really contribute to your team in a well-rounded manner. Hence, players like Kovacic is still relevant. You can say when Kovacic came into the burst into the scene, he was relatively a player who could not do a lot of defensive work rate. But then over the years, what Kovacic has done is that he's really improved on his defensive work rate. He has really been able to get into the zone of winning interceptions, winning aerial duels. And I'll give you another stat today of his key passes which he has made. Right, final third passes, it has been excellent. Now, look at most of the passes he's made has been to Perisic, and as I keep telling, right, he receives the ball from Modric, and Modric to Perisic, Perisic to Kramaric. That's how the play was orchestrated today. I know it could have been very much one-dimensional, but then it still was top quality. It was very tough to create. It was very tough to break those passes because the quality of the midfielders were too good for the Canadian backline or for the Canadian midfield to even predict. So they were outclassed in terms of skill more than anything else today.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, Abel, as you've rightly mentioned, they were really outclassed in terms of skill. But let's come into that. Let's look at the overall stats of this game. And obviously, we spoke about the score line 4-1 in favor of Croatia. But in terms of XG, Croatia had an XG of 2.6 against Canada's 0.5. 13 shots taken by Croatia, 10 of them were on target. So you would say Canada actually managed to, escape the brunt of it. Canada, on the other hand, had 8 shots, only two of which hit the target. And possession-wise, even though Canada had 52 percentage possession, they could really not convert anything, because if you look at the shots that has been taken, right, as you can see, the size of the circle shows the kind of XG that circle had, and there is only two shots in the box, and one of them you would really see as a minimal XG. Rest of them have been taken outside the box. And on the other hand, if you look at Croatian side of things, so many chances, so many dots right there, out of which four of them were converted. So you reckon now Croatia has done the better job? This kind of shows this shows the dominance that Croatia has had in this match.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the impact which Croatia were able to create today, I thought that was just wonderful. And also with Canada, I know they've taken so many shots, but it's been all outside the box towards the latter end of the game. It was all in desperation rather than them trying to even test the Croatian goalkeeper at any point of stage. But if you look at Croatian attack, I'm just talking about Kovacic once again. If you look at the Kovacic's balls inside the box, that in itself, now look at the attack they had. Look at the kind of balls they
Yeah.
have pinned in. Look at the kind of shots they have taken all inside the box. I think they've taken close to 7 shots inside the box, and that in itself creates a considerable amount of XG. And that's primarily because of the balls they've received. That's primarily because of they've been able to create those penetrative chances right into the box, and from there on create those chances and create those chances in a very effective way, where they were able to convert 4 of them, and all the 4 of them were wonderful. To be honest, there was no goal which looked like okay, this is a goal which came in slightly lucky because of some defensive mistake. They really worked hard. They really created those goals. It was a complete midfield effort of creativity which has led to all the 4 goals, especially the goal which Kramaric scored, the second goal before the first goal which Kramaric scored. Indeed, that was a wonderful goal. I mean, that just spoke about how the entire midfield was involved. The entire midfield of Brozovic, Modric, Kovacic, and Perisic was involved in that play. I thought that just spoke. That was just the highlight of what Croatia is. That was just the highlight of what this Croatia can do in this World Cup, and what they've been doing throughout the course of the last 4 years, 5 years, and now they've really turned up. I mean, now if a team like them turns up like this, then let me tell you, it's not going to be pretty dangerous to stop them.
Noah says you have amazing analysis. Thank you, Noah. I mean, it's mostly Abel and then me mispronouncing a lot of names, but thank you so much, Noah. And Solani says, Abel, is that a hairband? Is that a hairband, Abel? I think you call it a hair bow. That's what you call it.
Let's just go ahead, please.
Michael Andrew says that Croatia is cooking. Yes, and they did. It was, I mean, it was that kind of a day, isn't it? Whatever Croatia did, they just pulled it off. But let's talk about some of the other stats that we have right now with us, right? Let's start with the XG, the expected goals. And if you look at it, till the 15th, you would say till the 20th minute, it looked like Canada were the better team. And that's when Croatia started. I mean, that's when Croatia started cooking, to say, put in Michael Andrews' words. And from there on, it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. It almost looks like this is the chart for inflation in India or in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt about that, especially when it comes to that XT which was shown. Um, once you give Croatian midfield that opportunity to create when nobody's trying to press you, they become even more potent. And that's what exactly happened today. You allowed their midfield to toy around, and they made you look like bunch of school kids. because it was a complete toy out of the midfield. You allow them to create, and also skill set, right? You also have to give credit to them because their skill set is such that it's very tough to stop them. Even if you try pressing them, the quality of Modric, Kovacic are press resistant. They know how to absorb pressure and to create chances from there on. And someone like a Brozovic, he's been one of the best defensive midfielders in the entirety of Europe. I know for Inter Milan, the kind of work rate he puts in, for Inter Milan, the kind of performances he puts in week in and week out, being a cover shadow for for Skriniar. Um, I've always felt like he's one of the most underrated defensive midfielders. And a very old school defensive midfielder. He doesn't progress a lot more. He stays within the half line, tries to have the entire game run from there on. And now when you have two creative midfielders in Kovacic and Modric, his job becomes even more easier. He knows his job is pretty much cut out to stay there and actually run the play. And to be talking about once again, talking about Kovacic, the kind of day he has had, I would say that's one of the reasons why the XG has also gone up considerably. Now I'll just put in the attacking sequence as well so that you can understand why such an XG was been created, right? Now if I put in the attacking sequence of every player today, you can understand Kovacic. I know when it comes to stats, he's not been assist, but the entire play he created today, what an attacking sequence involvement did he have today? He has had a great attacking sequence involvement. Four chances that he created, and out of which he also took. He did not have any shots, but then. But the fact is that the four chances he created were key four chances, and even Perisic is another player who created a couple of three chances, out of which two of them were assists, and Kramaric had a terrific game up front, and Brozovic as well. Modric will not look extremely good in terms of his stats, but then look at that midfield. The midfield is involved. The try of the midfield is right up there in terms of chance creation, and hence the scoreline of 4-1 as well.
Yeah. I mean, and you saw these, the players. If you go back to that chart, you'll see that not many Canadian players there, right? You have Buchanan and Holliot, the two players who are shown in there, and that is a Croatian lineup. It almost looks like the best lineup. This is probably the best lineup of this match as well, because these are two players in Canada who did shine, you would say, but you look at some of these players, especially the Croatian players, you look at the fact that they have been involved in not just the chance creation, but also to the build up to the shot. So, which means they were involved in a lot in not just one department. They played multiple roles, and that's the reason why it became so difficult for Canada, because it is not one goal threat; it was a multiple goal threats coming at them, and they really had nowhere to hide, wasn't it?
I mean, yes, in terms of the chances created, I think it was total overall of seven chances which were created by the midfield trio. Yeah, it was seven chances which was created by the midfield trio, and those seven chances, out of which seven chances, I think three of them went to Perisic, and Perisic from there on created four chances. So you could see the entire orchestrated play, right? It was an beautifully orchestrated play which was done by them, and also talking about that, you understand that Buchanan had a decent game. I thought Tejon Buchanan had a game which he could have also possibly converted a couple of them. Uh, but that's where the midfield of Canada was completely dominated by the Croatian midfield, and they let them dominate. I don't know. Maybe they could have been more. They could have pressed them a lot more, especially something like a Brozovic or a Kovacic. But then they did not allow it to happen. And when you don't press them, when you allow them to play it around a lot more, that's something which is bound to happen, right? And with Perisic, I keep telling time and time again, with Perisic, what you get is the unpredictability of Perisic. He's physically very strong, and the way in which he makes those runs, the way in which he crosses the ball is extremely threatening. I remember in the last World Cup as well, I think it was in the semi-final against England, he was extremely good on the left-hand side. He was trying to pin the ball in time and time again. I guess he was the one who assisted Mandzukic to score that winner against England. And that's when you realize, the kind of player Perisic is. You you tend to not mark him a lot because you feel like he's going to go completely wide. He's not going to really be an attacking threat from the left hand side, but that's where he becomes even more potent. He drifts wide, he gets into that wider position, then he passes across. His crosses are one of the most deadliest crosses from the left hand region.
Yeah, true. That's where you saw today as well. the impact that he's created for this team. But let's talk about some of the things that let's talk about him again. Let's talk about Kovac's in a lot more detail. And he had a pass accuracy of 93.3 percentage of 57 touches, four key passes, and even though he did not have any shot on target, in fact, he did not take any shot. What he really did is, he made sure that the ball reached the final third, and from there, the duo of Kramaric and Perisic took over, and that's where you see this team really threaten, really become a threat. And as Sean says, Modric is the best midfielder of this generation. Today, they didn't even need someone like a Modric, right? I mean, Modric, I wouldn't say had a bad game, but they didn't really need him. I mean, they looked good enough. And as you can see in that list as well, Modric is not featuring in that list, but that still hasn't meant that Croatia has lost, has had any problem in this game today.
Yeah, I mean, Modric had a very decent game, and that's a typical Modric kind of a game to have, right? He just plays, goes under the radar, and still becomes an orchestrator for most of the attacking play. Because his reception, the way in which he was so assured, the way in which he had that calming presence in the midfield, really gives someone like a Kovacic that belief that he can also move into the final third and get into half spaces for him to be more braver in terms of his creative, because he knows Modric is there to give him that ball, give him that opportunity to support him in the midfield, and behind him is another strong personality in Brozovic as well. So that is what you get when you have a midfield who's so assured. And with Kramaric, once again, going back to the fact that for Kramaric, his job becomes even more easy. Though he put in a lot of work when it comes to his defensive ball receptions, when it comes to him trying to regain the ball from way deep in the field, and for him to get into position, it becomes way too easy for him. All what he has to do is get into position, because the entire play will be created. It will be served on the platter. If there is a definition of being served on the platter for any player, that's what you can have when you have this kind of midfield. We've seen that with Real Madrid time and time again. Benzema gets into position and the ball comes on his feet. All what he has to do is finish. And if you're very good at finishing, then mind you, man, then there's not a lot of teams who can really stop you, because this team will at least create 5 to 6 chances, and if you pin in two of them, you will have a decent game, or you'll at least go on to win the game more often than not.
Yeah, through that, and we saw some of the best examples of what you just spoke today in today's game. But let's move on. Let's go to the match that happened right before this. It was between Belgium and Morocco, where Belgium were rocked, you would say. What? Let me straight away put this. Do you reckon? There is a lot of still question. Whether Kevin De Bruyne was kidding with the media or not. But do you reckon now it seems more like a lot more true than what he probably meant when he said it?
It was true. I just felt it, and it was very evident even before the World Cup. Nobody gave this team even a slight bit of chance. At least in the last World Cup, people did give them chance, and they had a very good run. To go into the top four of a World Cup is not a mere joke. You have to play well to finish in top four, and they had a terrific World Cup in terms of that. I think they finished third in the entire World Cup. They got that bronze medal as well. So. To be very honest, that is what you can get with this Belgian team in their peak. And at this point, you can understand that with the end of Euros of last year, you understood that this team is on the decline. This team is on the decline mainly because their defense is extremely old. I think this is a team with the highest average age in this tournament. They've got players who have been playing for the last 8 years, and they've not made a lot of changes from that very squad. Maybe you can say instead of a Vincent Company, you have a Alduin or a Vertonghen there. But these lads have always been pairing even Vincent Company back there. So and also not Lukaku. Like Lukaku has barely started since August. He's not even 100% fit. And he was told before the match that only if it is required he'll be brought into the pitch. And he had to be brought in because they were trailing 1-0. But Morocco once again proved that they are a force to reckon with. If you give them the right opportunity, they are gonna make you pay for it, and that's exactly what happened. They made you pay for it because they look like a team who's extremely assured of what they were doing. They look like a team who could take an opposition like Belgium. Remember, Belgium. are a seriously good team. There's no doubt about that, because with Belgium you get players who have been playing in top European tied teams, likes of Manchester City, likes of Real Madrid. So these players, if to keep all these players quiet in a single game, you need to do something extremely good. That's why I thought Selim Amalia had a great game in terms of the way in which he was able to control the game, in terms of his defensive work rate, in terms of the way in which he was able to make a lot of successful passes as well. In the midfield, he dominated it, and also the back line of Morocco, likes of Hakimi and Mazroui, and the wing backs had a very good game as well. Once again, I thought they really dominated the Belgium team in all aspects, and even the attacking threats. They were more attacking in terms of whenever they got chance, they looked more threatening than the opposition as well. Now, if you look at this game, you can understand there were not a lot of chances created, but when it comes to goal threats, I thought Morocco were more threatening compared to Belgium. Though Belgium did get into good positions, there were phases of play where they got into good positions, but it was not good enough ultimately.
I mean, for me here, if you look at it, there's not much between the two. Of course, that shot that you can see at the right, at probably the right hand, I mean, the left hand side. If you look at the goalpost of, I mean, on the Moroccan side, that goal was out of nowhere, wasn't it? That was probably I mean, you would say. Also, you would have to blame Thibaut Courtois, the ball of Belgium, about what happened there. But that was still an amazing, amazing goal, right? To get away with it.
It was a wonderful goal, but at the same time, Thibaut Courtois had the worst possible day as a keeper, and that's
Yeah.
something which you see from Thibaut Courtois. He'll when he has a best day, there's nothing which can go past him, and when he has this kind of day, he looks like a very ordinary keeper. But then more often than not, he has more good days than bad days. It's a thing in sport. Anybody can have a bad day,
Yeah.
and today was Thibaut Courtois' bad day as well. It's not like everybody will have the most consistent good days. But I personally thought, Thibaut Courtois could have been more alert. He could have at least, charged there. He could have at least charged and collected the
I
ball.
mean, do you
But
reckon it is also a fact, as you mentioned, he could have been more alert? I think no one expected that shot to be taken, right? In fact, if you look at the XG here, you see how small that dot is, the red dot right there at the edge. So I think that's where he didn't expect the ball to come his way, and then by the time it came, he was shocked it was on target also. Because to
yeah,
put that ball on target from that angle is very difficult.
there's nothing much to talk from that game, to be very honest. All what I can say is that in that game, uh, you really did see Kevin De Bruyne having a very ordinary game. Though it looks good on stats that he had a lot more ball reception. He was the most actively involved Belgian player, but he was not good enough. Whatever balls he was trying to pin in, it was very well intercepted by the Moroccan defense. He couldn't penetrate anything through or create a chance which could have possibly been highly threatening. I'll just put that up once again. If you look at, he had made 17 passes, out of which you'll see 14 successful, 3 unsuccessful. Very decent game, a very Kevin De Bruyne like game, but that was
I
not good
mean,
enough
if
ultimately.
you look at the passes table right here, you'll see not many of these passes are in the final third, right? And some of
Yeah.
these passes are really back heels, and him passing it behind to a player who's behind the line, not someone who's ahead. This is not the Kevin De Bruyne we know when it comes to Manchester City, or a Kevin De Bruyne which we don't even expect in Belgium team. So he was. It did seem like they covered him well, where he was forced to lay the ball off, and that's where they kind of nullified his threat.
They did nullify the threat because of that very reason. At the same time, I also feel, if I have to mention about what Kevin De Bruyne can do, right? Kevin De Bruyne can do this kind of job, but Kevin De Bruyne, whatever he was able to do, he was being pressed. He was losing possession a couple of times as well, which was so unlike Kevin De Bruyne kind of a game. Uh, and it's also because the Moroccan team was highly compact in terms of them not giving any passing lanes. It's so important against a team or against a player like Kevin De Bruyne that you don't give any passing lanes or you don't allow him to take any shot. They did cover that pretty well. The moment you give any sort of space to Kevin De Bruyne, he'll either take a shot which will be highly threatening or he'll put up a pass which can lead to a goal. So that's how good Kevin De Bruyne is as a midfielder. There's no doubt, as Sean already mentioned about how good a midfielder Modric is. He's somewhat of a similar school and at least more advanced than uh, Luka Modric in terms of his gameplay. He's highly threatening because he's got that ability. He can create the moments of magic, same like Luka Modric, but he's not got as many accolades as Luka Modric, and Luka Modric is a Ballon d'Or winner. So you have to say Kevin De Bruyne is of a similar profile, and that's what Kevin De Bruyne can also do. But then Moroccan team, what they did was to make sure that there is no way in which Kevin De Bruyne can create any sort of creativity where chances can go through.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the goal threat, Evil, that the two teams had. And if you see right here, odd isn't it? The fact that, Belgium and Morocco had two chances where they were really, I mean, the XG was high when in that particular situation. But that's not where the goal has come. And the 79th minute, the goal has come when the XG is, you can't even see that plateau there. It just seems like a small would you say bump along the way on a plateau. And the next one of course is still a credible threat from Morocco's end, but again it really isn't as huge as you would expect, as huge as you would expect when it comes to this team. And that's where, I mean, it did look like, Belgium, where it was an end-to-end game till that first half. And after that first half ended, that's why you see that the Belgium team's active involvement is reduced so much and Morocco has started to take over.
Absolutely, Jen. In terms of how Belgium team was unable to create chances, I thought there were points where I personally thought they could have finished a couple of them. But once again, there was some goalkeeping brilliance on the Moroccan side as well. On in
Yeah.
those couple of occasions, there were some attacking threats which were put up. Michi Batshuayi, I really doubt he's not the most elite strikers out there in the world. Or it did require a moment of magic from Michi Batshuayi or even Eden Hazard to really penetrate through the defense, cut inside, and possibly score. That's something which you didn't see from them, and hence you saw that kind of a game from Belgium team, which is a very ordinary game. You just looked like there was no fresh legs. Ultimately, the coach was searching for fresh legs to come in and make an impact. By then, it was way too late.
Yeah, fair enough. But let's talk about just a few minutes to go now. Let's talk about the game that is a huge build-up between Germany and Spain, two teams. Especially Germany, must-win match for them after that surprise win. I mean, loss. Sorry, rather against the likes of Japan, who did go on to lose today against Costa Rica. Which means now there are three teams in this group with 3 points each, and if Germany wins today, then they can almost, they equalize this whole group, and then the final round of fixtures become the most important round of fixtures for the teams. And they convert into what do you say, knockouts. But how important is it for this German team to go ahead and win today? I mean, obviously, aside from the fact that they have to win, I mean, as I already mentioned, it is a do or die for them. But if they lose, it could be the second time now that they're knocked out in the group stage, and that's not a record anyone wants.
Yeah, of course, it is a very poor record, to be honest, if you are getting knocked out in the group stage for the second consecutive World Cup. But at the same time, I have to say uh, it is not going to be easy for the German side because you're coming up against a Spanish team who are riding high on momentum, who have got that philosophy which is inherent, which is highly inbuilt. They believe in that philosophy, plays that game in such a way. The system is set up. They're highly comfortable now. They've found the ideal starting 11 as well, with Carvajal coming back into the side. Uh, Attacking threat on the right hand side can be even more potent. And for Germany, um, I would say it's not going to be easy, to be honest. They've now today in today's game, they've gone in with a striker. They've gone less with a striker. I think they're playing a false nine like Thomas Müller. They've gone in with Thomas Müller,
Yeah,
who's going to play more like a free roaming role. Uh, it is what it is. I think match has already begun, but I would
it
say
does.
uh, it's very interesting lineup with which they've gone. They've brought in, they've brought in someone like a carer back into the side, primarily because the wing backs weren't threatening enough, and they're going with a 4-2-3-1 with Ilke Gundogan playing that number 10 and Musiala on the left hand side and Nabi on the right. I still don't understand why he has not gone with Leroy Sané. I still don't understand why is Thomas Müller and Jamal Musiala starting in the same team. You can have one of them start. I can understand he has removed Kai Havertz because Kai Havertz, though he gives you a lot of pressing ability, but him in front of the goal has not been the best over the last couple of years, especially since he has made that move to Chelsea. Except one of the biggest goals he scored in the Champions League final, he's not really made an impact.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say that that's the reason why, his head was not, what do you say? He wasn't sold along with someone like the likes of Timo Werner. When he was sold back to RB Leipzig, but Ranga Rajappa says he will Bengaluru FC Namma Uru. Well, some Bengaluru fans as well. ISL is still going on, by the way, in India. There
Yeah,
isn't a World
yeah,
Cup break.
as a Bengaluru FC kid, absolutely. I'm also a Bengaluru FC fan. Rangarajappa. I, I just to drift away from World Cup topic. Pretty saddened that it is possibly the end of an era in Bengaluru FC with Seaman Gulliston dropping Sunil Chetri to say that we are looking forward into the next generation. Sunil Chetri has had an awful season. You can understand that it's hard to take it as a Bengaluru FC fan, but then you got your first win also. I don't say it's because of that reason, but in sport you have to look forward, and Bengaluru FC is going through a transition. We've been very poor. Even yesterday, though we won, I just didn't like the way in which Bengaluru FC played. I still think Simon should go back.
That was a very cold moment right there, when you said that, and then you had to take a sip. Nice one. But let's talk about the Spanish team then. After that break, I mean, we have 3 minutes are in, and right now Germany are in the Spanish half. But let's talk about the Spanish team, right? Almost the same team. Once again, you see Asensio right in the middle of the attackers. They've gone with 4-3-3, if I'm not wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
they've gone with 4-3-3 with Busquets in the middle. But this team is scary, right? With Gavi, Pedri, Busquets, the way he looked in the previous game, Asensio, Olmo, Torres, and then right at the back you have Danny Carvajal, who's back. You did ask for him to be included, and then as we spoke, we did talk about probably he's not being included because it was a match against Costa Rica, but he's back now in this lineup. Now you reckon this is a full strength Spanish team against a German team which is underconfident and also have changed the formation as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting game. It's good. Germany are going to play a high line of defense. Spain will be looking to keep the ball a lot more. Germany would want to regain the ball in the final third. So, uh, a competition which is going to be very interesting between two strong setups. Both believe in keeping the ball a lot more. Both believe in possessional based football, especially in the Hansi Flick. You've seen whichever team Hansi Flick has coached, he likes to regain the ball. He likes to press. He likes to press. He likes to press in triggers and press constantly. He likes to keep a clear intensity in the game throughout the course. And similar with Spanish team as well. They like to keep the ball. They don't like losing the ball. They don't like playing from the back. They don't like going to a low block or mid block. They like to keep a high line of defense and to play the ball around. Build up from the back. And for German team, they like to regain the ball and press it from the back. So interesting philosophies and two interesting attacking mindsets who are coming up against each other. And let's see what's going to happen. I think this is going to be the game of the tournament. It's the most anticipated game. And as we speak, we I've already seen a couple of chances being created by both the teams. And I think this is going to
There
be
has been a couple of runs into the box, right, on both ends. And as you mentioned, I think the similar style of play is going to help this game get a lot more exciting because at the end of the day, probably it's going to be the team that executes it the best, right? And that's where I feel like Spain has a slight edge because they are playing in a system which they have already, practiced, or you would say they've already had match practice under in that Croatian match. I know Germany faces stiffer opposition in Japan, but then it is the same opposition that Spain defeated, that has gone on to win against the opposition that was defeated Germany. So in many ways, you can argue that Germany will probably have that difficulty of adjusting to a new system. Let's hope that Hansi Flick has done that background work to
I mean, they're not
ingrain the
changed
system back
in terms of formation. Germany maintained 4-2-3 even in the last game, but only changes they made is they brought in Goretzka, who they believe is going to be a physical presence
So
and
yeah, I mean
which will help
that's why
Germany.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
which
why
will help
you would say
Germany
that the
most of
team
the way to move
lineup
forward.
is changed. I think as you rightly mentioned, formation isn't the way to say it, but team lineup has been changed, and that shows. We spoke about it as well when the Argentina match was going on. It did seem like there was a lot of personnel changes, and that kind of shows the stability that the manager believes his team is, or at least it shows whether the team manager is ready, has found his team right. And at this point in time, it looks like Enrique, I mean Luis Enrique has found his team, But while Hansi Flick is still looking for a combination, for the right combination in this World Cup.
To be very honest, I think Luis Enrique found his team way before even the first game of the World Cup. I think he found it the last month when the team was announced in itself. He was very clear. No matter what the media is going to say, he's going to respond with his Twitch channel antics.
With channel,
And
yeah.
he was very confident of the players he was going to pick who will fit right into the system. And boy, aren't they not delivering. Now, look at Pedri. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was an incredible shot.
Yeah.
It had to be Danny Olmo who took that shot from the right hand side. I mean, I love. Oh, that was a brilliant shot. I mean, once again, talking about
And
how
it had to
dreadful the
be
Spanish
it
team
had
can
to
be.
be Manuel Neuer to stand between the shot and the goal.
Yeah, it was Manuel Neuer's brilliance there. I thought that went in. It had everything to
With
go
Thibaut
in. And
Courtois,
it's a
I think Thibaut Courtois is supposed to take some lessons from that, huh? Even though that was probably an easier one.
I mean, it's unfair on Thibaut Courtois once again because Thibaut Courtois has had some brilliant moments, especially if we
That's
talk about
me
the
taking shots on
Champions
Thibaut Courtois.
Yeah, maybe yeah, you can say so, but that's one of the reasons why Manuel Neuer is a preferred keeper in this team over someone like a Marc-Andre Ter Stegen. Because look, Ter Stegen is a top-notch keeper. Let's not take anything away from Ter Stegen, but Manuel Neuer's presence in this team over the last 1 decade has really put any keeper in Germany to shame because they know that they're not going to get even a single chance into the German side. It was like when
Yeah.
Mahendra Singh Dhoni is a keeper of India, you don't see any of the keepers even coming close. It's a similar thing.
It's about the cricket team, guys. Just in case some of you are wondering, he's talking about the cricket team and not the football team. But Evel is just do you want to talk about the fantasy lineup because we're pretty late in terms of that.
I think we're late to talk about the fantasy now, but nonetheless, if I would say about two players to watch out for
So
in
I'll
today's game,
change. Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say I'll
I
change
would
the question and
say,
ask you two players you're gonna watch out for.
uh, I would say Thomas Muller and I will say tough, but I would go with Pedri. Pedri and Thomas Muller are going to be
I think
two best players to watch out for. And with
it is a
Pedri,
difficult. Yeah,
Pedri is
yeah.
my current favorite player in the world. I think I've used this for a lot of
I
other
mean,
players, but
it is difficult to pick two players out of this lineup, right? It is a star-studded lineup, but thank you guys for joining us. That is it from us for today. We will be back tomorrow with the analysis of the result of this match, and obviously we will be covering the next few matches that are coming up. Exciting times in the World Cup because we are almost halfway through the group stages, and things are really shaping up. So we'll be also talking about the groups and how they're looking. I mean, they're shaping up tomorrow and how the coming upcoming matches are really going to affect the standings as well. Thank you, Abel, for joining us. Thank you so much, guys. And before I leave you with the fact that you can download Boom 11 on Apple App Store and Google Play, and you can play without investing any real money and earn coins and use those coins to convert it into points and use convert those points into exciting rewards on the app. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be back tomorrow.
yeah, we'll be back tomorrow and have a good time, all of you. I will try to
Yeah,
watch along very soon.
we will.